So next up, it's our pleasure to welcome Elliot Kennedy to the stage. A Grammy and Nobel award-winning producer. He's got accolades coming out of his ears. It's incredible. And he operates from Sheffield, down the road, next to the workstation, next to the Human League. Allegedly. Elliot.
Hi everybody. Can I just listen? I'm a musician, so I just want to say thank you to our amazing musicians. It's not easy, guys. Playing in a room where people are getting drinks. I thought it was really lovely. Thank you. What an amazing poem we heard. If there's any songwriters in the room. I know he clocked, turning the mess into a message. What a great line. Beautiful, beautiful, amazing stories. I'm not quite sure how to follow Gregor Mendel and God. Listen, like you all, I'm a real proud Sheffielder, and this night I think is a wonderful thing, and I want to thank you guys for doing it, because it's not very often we get to celebrate each other, is it? And gather in a room. That's in itself is a privilege, how we're living right now. So thanks for letting me do this, it's very kind of you. So yes, I'm a songwriter. And it's a funny old job. I'm constantly in pursuit of inspiration. So I had a whole idea on what I wanted to talk to you tonight, but I think that the one thing I try to do more than anything is be inspired by people. And Kat's passion for jewellery and getting people engaged in local artists, and Tim's amazing knowledge and fascination with science and his faith. What was our poet's name? I missed his name. Chris. What can you say about Chris? Demonstrating the human spirit, I think, in itself, and that has to be commended. But I'm constantly looking for that in humans, and I didn't know that when I started out as a songwriter. I'm just a Sheffield lad. My school was Dinnington Comprehensive. Being a musician at Dinnington Comprehensive, I was the kid at the piano every break and every after school, and my mum and dad didn't have anything, so I had to borrow synthesizers and drum machines and learn how to use them and use them to create songs, and they were all absolutely terrible, of course, but my careers talk in my school was pretty short. It was simply, which pit do you want to go down, Dinnington or Maltby? And I said, oh no, I'm going to be a songwriter. And he sort of looked up and he went, very nice, Dinnington or Maltby. That was it, they were my options, and coming from a family of, we didn't have the means to buy equipment, it was going to be tough. And I didn't know that I could be a songwriter and a record producer. I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't think people did that. You're in a band, or you were a recording artist, and that's it. But somehow I had this idea that, I don't know, I just had this thing that I didn't comprehend. And as I've gone along, I keep coming back to this understanding and this search, this pursuit, you might call it faith, in whatever it is that drives me. I just remember getting to a point where I surrendered to it. And I've realized in my life, the only times I've really taken it upon myself to think I know a better route is when I screw it up. If I listen to whatever it is, if I feel, and I think that if we can get to a place where you can surrender, and it's tough. It's a big word, that. And I'm not talking about this from a religious sense, so Tim, do forgive me. I'm talking about getting out of your own way. Because I think that whatever it is that drives us, whatever it is that we tap into, and I think it's everywhere. And my understanding of science and my acknowledgement of belief in something I can't see, if you want to call that faith, has led me to this point. I can't remember making the decisions that led me to writing a hit record or producing an artist that was one of my idols. And I've had the opportunity to do all of those things. But what I have understood, and what I do relate to, and I'm happy to accept that I'm a part of something bigger than me, that for whatever reason, I get to hold a pencil the day the universe wants to write a song. And the way I acknowledge that is that it's a field. And we know this from science, right? We know that everything is energy. That this can is energy, that this chair is energy. It happens to be in the shape and form of a chair, but it's all around us. It connects us to everything. And I think that to receive it, you've just got to want to put your aerial up, because it's trying to get to us all, that inspiration. It's pure creation. It just wants to get to us all. But here's the kicker. To be inspired to receive that, to put your aerial up and receive that, you have to get to a place of real honesty. And I think that no matter what it is, it could be architecture or art, jewellery, it could be poetry, anything I've ever come across that is really quite exceptional has probably come from quite a painful process of almost never happening. I'm sure in your journey, Tim, of pursuit of your machine, you come across some incredible barriers where it almost fell apart and didn't happen. And I think that it's those experiences, if you like, our pain, that actually defines us. It's an unfortunate thing I've found about being a human being, is we tend to only learn anything from those painful processes, because when we're having a good time, we're too busy having a good time to actually register what's going on around us. Does that make sense? So as a songwriter, I've always thought my job is to sort of catalogue those experiences, the bits that actually make us human, the bits that connect us. And the reason why songs resonate with you is because it's probably been written from an incredibly honest and probably quite painful place. I think that's the bit that makes us human. It's an unfortunate thing, but I also think it's kind of meant to be that way. I think that our value system is largely based on those experiences that we have, or those that are in our lives. It helps shape us as individuals. So this all sounds very, very technical, but I kind of have this philosophical approach to it all nowadays. One of the first questions people ask, how do you write a song? And I just have to be really honest about that and say it's kind of very little to do with me. It's already out there. Every song I've ever written probably already existed in that field of energy. And what the joy that I get to share in, by putting my aerial up and putting myself in a place of vulnerability and wanting to tap into that level of honesty, is you get to personalize it. So I get to, write that lyric from my own experience, or, anything that I've come across, or stories. I mean, this is what I find the most inspiring thing. I think fundamentally, it's a human thing that we want to be inspired first and foremost, right? Do you think that's true? That whatever it is that we want to achieve, first and foremost, we want to be inspired. Now, I've had the incredible privilege of working with some of my idols, and if I mention people you might know, don't make that clanging sound as I drop a name, because you've got to remember, I'm Elliot from Sheffield, and I constantly, ask myself, what the effing hell am I doing here? And I've been in these incredible circumstances. And what I've found is I've worked a lot with the Canadian rock star Bryan Adams, and we found ourselves in the most ridiculous circumstances. Bryan says, the further I get away from Sheffield, the more Sheffield I become. He actually said at one point, after being in this room full of people, I felt like a giraffe at a gorilla convention. And Bryan said, Elliot, you talk with your shoulders. And I went, no, what am I telling you? And I realised that it was the Sheffield in me, it's a thing we do. And I find myself in these bizarre circumstances, one of which, incidentally with Bryan, was writing a song and performing it for the Pope. and going to the Vatican. Hey, listen, it turns out the Pope likes to rock. John Paul II did, anyway. And that experience was like one of those moments of, what am I doing here? At any point now, they go, excuse me, are you Elliot from Sheffield? What the hell are you doing here? And these things keep happening. I had the incredible privilege, an amazing honour actually, to write for what I think was probably the best female voice ever, and that being Aretha Franklin. And Aretha and Mary J. Blige sang a song I wrote for a movie called Bobby, which was about the day Bobby Kennedy was killed in the Ambassador Hotel. And so I'd like to just tell you this story and how it ended up. We ended up not only getting a Golden Globe nomination, but it went on to win a Grammy. It was actually Aretha's only gospel Grammy she ever won. So it's an amazing thing just to be this tiny little piece of that unbelievable career and have that voice as the vehicle for one of my songs. I mean, I can't stress how remarkable that moment is in my life. But it started, we were writing a song for the film Bobby. It's about the day Bobby Kennedy was killed in the Ambassador Hotel. It was written by and directed by Emilio Estevez, who I got to know in the process of doing this thing. He was a charming guy. And he told me the whole story about how it came about, that he was watching the news one day and they were going to knock down the Ambassador Hotel. And he said to himself, you know, someone should make the movie about Bobby before they knock that down. And his brother, Charlie Sheen, came over to see him and said, you should do it. And he was like, no, I couldn't do that. So he started writing it, but you know, he was struggling. There was a very solid deadline. They were going to knock the building down. So if you wanted that fascia of the building, you had to get on with it. And his brother said to him, you know what, your life is getting in the way. You need to get out of here and find somewhere you can just concentrate and get on with it and let it come to you. So he literally got in his car that day and drove out on the 10 highway out and towards Palm Springs into the desert. And it started getting dark, and he said, I saw a motel and I pulled in, and I went into the motel and there was a lady there, and she said, hey, I know you. And he's, hey, what are you doing here? And he said, well, I'm making this movie. I'm writing this movie about the day Bobby Kennedy was killed in the Ambassador Hotel. And she put a hand on him and said, honey, I was there. He was like, what? She was in the kitchen the moment Saran walked in and shot Bobby and 5 other people. So serendipity, right? I mean, call it what you will, fortunate accident. I have a theory on serendipity. I'll just jump into this quickly and I'll come back to the story. Serendipity, right? Fortunate accident. Things that happen, seem to happen, randomly. Malcolm Gladwell sums it up brilliantly. And he defines it in different levels. That level 1 of serendipity, referred to as Columbian serendipity. Here's Columbus, setting out to discover the west coast of India, goes completely the wrong way, and discovers America. I mean, so positive that we still call it the West Indies today. Right? It's nothing to do with India. Columbian serendipity, blind luck, what a great result, fortunate accident. Second level, a little bit more defined. Archimedean serendipity. Here's Archimedes. He's got a problem. He's trying to solve it. Doesn't know how to measure the volume of an irregular shaped object, and he's trying everything and he can't work it out. Has his servant run him a bath, and he gets in the bath and the water rises and he shouts Eureka. He finds his answer in an unusual place, but he was pursuing something. So it's a little bit more refined, it's a little bit more focused serendipity nonetheless. And then we have Galilean serendipity. We all know who Galileo is. Comes back to Tim's very pious man who struggled with his beliefs and his scientific knowledge that he could see the moons of Jupiter. We now refer to them as Galilean moons. Going around, he could see it with this, so he builds a telescope, thinking he's just going to prove what he can see, that we're not the centre of it all. But he looks through the telescope and discovers the universe. That's the kind of serendipity I needed to achieve as a songwriter. I needed to focus my spotlight. Instead of spraying and praying everywhere, I needed to turn it into a laser and get to the kind of songwriting that I always thought I was capable of. And this movie gave me an opportunity to do that. When we found out it was going to be Aretha Franklin who was going to sing the song, I kind of wanted to give up, because what is the chances of a big lad from Sheffield writing a song for Aretha Franklin? Pretty much zero. But do you know what? I thought, do you know, why not? Why not? I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to write the most honest song I ever wrote. And do you know what? For someone who would probably say I'm not a particularly religious person, I wrote a gospel song. I went into now working with Bryan Adams has its perks. He has a house in Mustique, and pretty beautiful, yeah, I know. And he had this incredibly pious woman who run his kitchen, Gloria. You didn't go in Gloria's kitchen unless you had a really good reason to do it, because she would really give you a good one. I went in and said to Gloria, there's always Christian radio on in the background. I said to Gloria, can I borrow your Bible? And she was thrilled. This is a woman that would drag me out of bed on a Sunday morning and iron me a shirt to drag me to church. Get up, you backslider, she would say to me. And I would go to church with her and have this incredible experience with all these amazing people. But, you know, I've struggled with religion. I've struggled with the concept of religion itself, but I've learned to sort of look beyond that, the human parts of religion, and sort of just get comfortable with the spirituality of it all, my connectedness, if you like. And I said to Gloria, what does it do to your faith when, and let's be honest here, Bobby was the last hope of the civil rights movement in the 60s. You know, Dr. Martin Luther King was taken, his brother JFK was taken, Bobby was the last hope for the civil rights movement. And he's gone. And I said to Gloria, what does this do to your faith? And she grabbed me by the collar and dragged me over the table and got right in my face. Mr. Elliot, she said, nothing will break my faith. Oh my God, there's a song title if there ever was one. And now I've got a mess and a message. And I wrote a song, and I went off. It was probably the most honest song I've ever written. And Aretha heard it, and she said, I've got to sing this. It's the best lyric I've read in the last 20 years. And it was like, oh, that's going on my tombstone. Take me now, I've done everything I came to achieve. I've lived my life by a poem by the Indian poet Rabindranath Tagore. He wrote a poem that said, for years I've been stringing and unstringing my instrument, but the song I came to play is still unplayed. And that kind of feels like my life as a songwriter. I'm waiting for the song that I came to write. And at that point, Aretha Franklin singing probably the most honest song was probably, I was all right. If that was my time was up, I would probably be able to sign off. But I didn't. I carry on, and I come to the studio every day hoping to write that song. And I thought I'd sort of leave you with something I've been working on for the last few years, if it's all right to share this with you. I had also the privilege of writing a Broadway musical called Finding Neverland, which was based on the life of J.M. Barrie, who of course wrote Peter Pan. And we had a fantastic run on Broadway and toured the US. It's actually coming to the UK next year, which I'm very excited about. And it changed my life, because everything I thought I knew about songwriting, you go to Broadway, it's a bit like going to Nashville. You think you're a songwriter until you go to Nashville. And the same happened to me on Broadway. It was like, forget everything you think you know. It was the most incredible challenge for me to write and actually let the song do the heavy lifting of the story, let the song tell the story rather than just all the dialogue. It was an incredible discipline. And then one day I've been writing with this classical violinist called David Garrett. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a German long-haired violinist who's sort of rock and roll violinist. And he would send me a piece of music and ask me to write a song. We did this, and Nicole Scherzinger sang it, and he had a hit with it, which was a nice thing to be a part of. And it was sort of classical songwriting, which I'd never done before. And he sent me another piece of music, and I wrote a song. And it was about I'm half Irish, so I'm very proud of my Irish heritage. I wrote a song about two Irish boys that leave Ireland to go to New York. And I wrote it, and I did this demo, and thought, what the hell am I going to do with a song about two Irish boys emigrating to New York? So I called my mate Alfie Bow, and I thought, he knows Borley, they're doing albums, you know. And I said, do you fancy having a go at this with Borley and see if it works for your duets thing? And he said, yeah, I love it. Good northern lad, Alfie. He said, I love it, but what's it about? And I said, do you know what, I don't know. And then I woke up, can we just scroll back up again? I woke up one morning with that photograph in my head. And I thought, hey, that's what that song is about. Two of those guys are Irish boys that have gone to New York to pursue their dreams. And what I've decided is this here is Jimmy, and this here is Niall. This here is Lucas, he's from Brazil. This here is Pavel. I needed to open this musical with an idea on where all these people are from. The musical itself is a celebration of the diversity that makes New York quite amazing. Everyone's from somewhere in New York, right? And I wanted this musical to be about inclusivity. I wanted it to be a celebration of what makes everyone different, rather than it being a problem. And that a country has come out of an incredibly divisive time of its history, and now is a good time to celebrate its diversity. So I wanted a song that would give us an idea where they're from. And if you look at what they're doing, they're eating lunch, and they're all looking in each other's lunchbox. And I thought, right, I'm going to write a song that somehow takes us around the world. It's been an incredible journey, and it continues. You know, I'm so fortunate. I live here because I love Sheffield, and I've been all over the place. And I get to do it here. I get to go into the city every day, the city that I love, and write songs about immigrants that go to New York and build cities. I feel incredibly privileged, as I do, being able to stand here and talk to you about it. Thank you very much, and thanks for letting me do this.